Hi, welcome back, job seekers. So, the last couple of days here on my resume review channel, you've been hearing me use the phrase Applicant Tracking System, or ATS. So what is an ATS? An ATS is a computer system with an algorithm that is designed to make life easier for human resources people. What it does is track the status of your application to any job. I can assure you that any large company that uses an online application system certainly uses an ATS. Most companies that have a human resources department use some kind of ATS. And to be quite honest, almost every company that is over a certain size is going to use an ATS in some form. The problems arise for job seekers is not just when they're using an ATS to track the status of your application, but that they use the computer algorithm to evaluate your resume. They're looking for keywords. They're looking for the same keywords that have been defined by the job listing that has been written by the human resources person or the person in charge of a department. So the ATS looks for keywords, key phrases, all those things that you think it's okay to use a synonym for. Guess what? It's not. You have to try and use the exact phrase, the exact word, as much as you can. So what I always recommend doing is making your resume ATS compliant from the beginning. Here's the process. You send your resume in. The ATS scans it, reads it. I think they use some kind of optical reader, which is why it's important not to go too small, or the ATS starts seeing spelling mistakes when they aren't there. Then it ranks those resumes in order and it sends a report to the HR person. The HR person reads the report at the keyword match situation as a way of judging whether you are a good candidate for the job, whether you have all of the qualifications, and then they choose the top however many, maybe it's 20, maybe it's 30, to have a look at those resumes. Then finally the HR person reads your resume and they have 6 seconds that they give. 6 seconds of attention to your resume. So it's important that you make your resume look good too. And one of the ways that you do that is by having consistent fonts and all those other things I talked about yesterday. Then they will go ahead, they'll look at those top 20 or 30 and they'll decide to call in, say 10 to 15 for an interview. Then of those 10 to 15, they might do a phone interview first, then or even a video interview, and I talk about that in an upcoming video a little bit. They'll call you into the office for a face-to-face interview, and then eventually they get to a point where they're down to 2 or 3 candidates and they might have you come back for a second interview with the whole department or with your actual supervisor. So it'll go from who knows how many applicants, 500, 1,000 for a job, down to 30, down to 15, down to 5, down to 2. And that's how job seeking works for listed positions in most businesses. Now, of course, a lot of the time when you're working in production, you aren't going through an ATS. You're doing what I like to call a direct submission resume that you're handing to someone you know, hopefully, who is going to pass your resume to the UPM or the line producer, or you're sending your resume in response to a networking event that you've been to or a call that you've made or someone sent you a recommendation. The good news is that a recommendation will overcome a badly formatted resume or any number of other problems. That is why networking is so important, and we're going to get to that in a future video. Don't forget to subscribe and ring that little bell to hear about the notifications. See you soon.